This 4x4 is driven by CASA's Climate Smart Agriculture Advisor, Jonny Casey. Jonny's research has identified 8 technologies with potential for investors and climate impact. They are smart irrigation systems using sensors, digital information platforms, solar-powered drip irrigation, processing units and cold chain storage, biocontrols and precision applications, biological coatings to extend the life of food, and biodigesters. We asked Jonny 4 questions designed to inform investors about climate smart and nature positive agriculture. He had 4 minutes to answer each question. What are the opportunities for investors relating to climate smart and nature positive agriculture?
There are opportunities to invest in both adaptation and mitigation technologies in agriculture in both Asia and Africa, and that includes both digital technologies for information as well as on-farm technologies to improve production and post-harvest technologies to avoid losses and waste. There are 450 million smallholder farmers across Asia and Africa that are in need of these technologies to build resilience to climate change, to lower their carbon footprint of their production, and there are huge opportunities to invest in these technologies that are going to enable them to leapfrog, to improve production practices. There's a need to invest up to $300 billion per year in these technologies every year to adapt to the impacts of climate change and to build low carbon production systems, which are increasingly in demand by both governments and by consumers. There are risks to investing in agriculture with farmers that are at risk of the impacts of climate change as well as in the seasonal variations that exist, but there is a huge need and a huge opportunity for these technologies to help farmers leapfrog to more resilient and productive and low carbon systems of food production that investors can take hold of in the coming years. These are in areas such as drip irrigation and smart irrigation for improved water resource management. They're in areas such as cold storage technologies powered by renewable energy to avoid losses and waste and really maximise the profitability of the crops, as well as digital information systems helping farmers to know exactly what to do and when to avoid the damages of climate change. And each of those presents different types of revenue generation for investors. So many of those technologies have proven that they're able to generate viable incomes every single year, but not yet at the profit levels that are seen in other areas of technology or infrastructure investment. So many private investors would be looking for 20 to 30% growth year on year. Those technologies aren't yet able to deliver those kind of returns. But if we're able to start to address some of those constraints, particularly on the demand side, and the more that those costs scale, the more those companies are able to mature, the cost of those technologies is going to come down and those revenues are going to start to inch up towards those higher levels of return. We have a challenge at the moment that there is a pull from other areas of technology such as renewable energy technologies, solar mini grids or wind power, where investors looking for a climate smart portfolio are able to see a more mature market with more predictable growth. But the area of real scalable and transformative growth that is on the verge of really taking off right now is in climate smart agriculture technologies, when you have that base of 450 million smallholders across just Asia and Africa.
What are the technologies in climate smart agriculture and nature positive agriculture that are showing real promise?
On the one hand, we have things like smart and drip irrigation systems, which are helping farmers to both reduce their energy costs for irrigation, as well as reducing the amount of water that they use. And this is something that's really, really important to farmers. So there's huge demand for this. We've already seen a number of businesses that are already generating significant, in the multi-million pounds of Series A and Series B funding of different types of business models, which are helping to deliver these climate smart agriculture technologies. So for example, pay-as-you-go models, which overcome some of those challenges in affordability for farmers. We're also seeing businesses pivot towards as-a-service models or subscription models away from hardware provision, which again are helping to generate continuous revenues and helping to build business models which are showing viable investment opportunities. Off-farm, we're also seeing real significant growth in areas such as cold chain storage. So we've seen that there are new franchising business models, for example, that enable these units to be both built and maintained by different groups in different areas where there is the greatest need and the greatest opportunity as well. And what we've also seen is a diversification of the revenue streams for some of these businesses. So not just providing cold chain storage, but also using that storage as a leverage, as collateral to enable farmers to access finance to invest in further climate smart agriculture technologies. And so by acting as a broker for that finance or directly providing that finance is a new revenue stream for these businesses, which again is improving their investment viability and their ability to generate profit and revenue growth. So we've seen a real sort of growth in this in India in particular. We're also seeing some interesting opportunities in digital information technologies as well. What these digital platforms are able to do is bundle together, for example, financial services, the inputs from a particular provider, and on top of that as well, climate information services and advisory services. So it's really trying to create a much more holistic offering for the farmers. That's really improving their willingness to pay for these services on an ongoing basis. So we're getting much greater traction with subscription models. And with digital technologies, you don't have the same challenges of distribution and logistics that you have for other types of hardware technologies. So these software technologies are able to scale much more easily, much more rapidly at a much lower cost than others, which is presenting a real interesting investment opportunity as well. So in both hardware and software technologies, we're seeing a move towards collective purchasing or the use of cooperatives or village-based financing options to invest in these technologies. So whether it's hardware, we're looking at things like portable irrigation technologies. So a group of farmers are able to collectively invest in these technologies and rotate the use of those as well. With digital technologies, we're seeing, for example, cooperatives acting as sort of a knowledge gateway for many hundreds or thousands of farmers. So there are greater opportunities for collective investment where there are challenges for smallholders on low incomes to be able to individually invest in these technologies. So it's really starting to change the market dynamics.
There's a push for public and private sources to mobilise £100 billion in climate smart finance. What steps are needed to make sure that smallholder farmers are not left behind?
There are opportunities to mobilise this $100 billion of climate finance every year into climate smart agriculture technologies and other areas of climate technology to address climate risks and to lower the carbon footprint. And what's needed to mobilise that capital is investment in early growth stage businesses. There are many innovative climate smart agriculture technologies that are being developed but fall at the area, the valley of the death, when they are proven to be successful, proven to be effective, but can't yet scale. There is so much support that's available currently for the ideation stage of businesses, getting ideas off the ground, but there is very little technical support and in particular financial support for those businesses to go beyond a project or a pilot to a much greater stage of growth and to really reach scale and reach that level of maturity where other areas of private investment can come in and really take them to that next stage and really start to create transformation in addressing climate adaptation and mitigation. So we have an issue of both early stage finance as well as growth stage technical support, and that's on the supply side. On the demand side, what we need is a great deal more support for farmers and for agribusinesses and cooperatives of farmers as well, to be able to access the finance they need to be able to purchase or to lend or to subscribe to these technologies as needed. At the moment, there's a huge gap between the affordability of many of these technologies and the financial ability of farmers, cooperatives and small agribusinesses to actually be able to apply them. So we need financial institutions as well, whether that be banks or microfinance lenders and others, insurance providers, for example, to be able to come in and provide more affordable finance for farmers that's in balance with their seasonal income and revenue and outgoings, so that these technologies can really start to reach scale, to reach a level of maturity, to reach a level of profitability where there is a much greater value proposition for private investors as well. Once we're able to address both these demand side and supply side constraints, we're going to be able to rapidly unlock that 100 billion of climate finance every year.
What role can technical assistance play to ensure that value chains can make the necessary adjustments to adapt to the changing climate?
Technical assistance is really important both for agribusinesses and for farmers. For agribusinesses in particular, it's really important to help them to reach that level where they can absorb new finance. We heard from investors as part of this research that one of the key constraints for them to be able to invest in many climate smart agriculture technology companies and innovators is their technical capacity to make use of that investment, to bring in the talent to be able to manage the finances, to be able to manage the scale of operations required at new levels with that additional finance. At the moment, most technical assistance is channeled really towards the much smaller scale enterprises, the sort of ideation stage and the proof of concept stage of many businesses. And there is very little technical assistance that's provided or available to agribusinesses and to technology innovators as they grow and mature at different stages. And yet, what we heard both from innovators and from investors was the need for technical assistance from those companies actually grows as they grow as well. So we really need to see a shift and a reprioritization of where technical assistance is provided. CASA, for example, has its technical assistance facility, which is helping agribusinesses to scale their operations, to identify new value chain propositions, to identify new revenue income streams as well. And what CASA is doing is helping agribusinesses and technology innovators to understand the climate change risks and climate change opportunities that they have with new tools that have been developed as well, to understand how weather patterns and how soil information systems and how other market dynamics are helping to shape new opportunities as well. So that's at the business level of technical assistance. But also there is technical assistance required at the farmer level as well, to really make the most use of these technologies and to really get the best out of them, to make them most financially viable and relevant for farmers. They need the technical assistance and support to understand how to best apply and use these technologies, such as biocontrol products. There's a real need for farmers to understand how best to apply these and when to apply these so that they're most effective. They're often not done in the same way that traditional chemical control products are used, things like pesticides and herbicides. Biocontrol products are much more sensitive to changes in the weather and the environment. So technologies such as Earth observation technologies and in combination with climate histories are able to better pinpoint exactly when farmers should be applying biocontrol products to make them most effective as possible. So it's that level of technical assistance which is also going to drive that demand side the demand for climate smart agriculture technologies as well. So at different levels, we need different types of technical assistance to make sure that these technologies become viable investment opportunities for private and public investors alike.
The CASA programme is proud to be building partnerships across the world to help to deliver climate finance solutions in Africa and Asia. Visit the events page, past events section, to hear other expert viewpoints shared in the CASA 4x4s and webinar series.